He was there before I noticed him. That's the part that still makes my skin crawl, not when I saw him, but realizing he had already been watching me for God knows how long before I turned around. I was 24 the summer I went to Austin City Limits Music Festival. 3 days, 100,000 people, one of the biggest outdoor festivals in the country. My best friend Cassidy and I had been planning it for over a year. We drove in from Houston, split an Airbnb with 2 other girls we knew from college, and told ourselves this was the trip. The first 2 days were everything we wanted. Dust, music, sunscreen, overpriced drinks, staying out until 2 in the morning, and not caring. We were tired in that good way, the kind where you fall asleep smiling. Day 3, Cassidy made a decision I wish I could go back and stop her from making. She had brought something with her, a substance. I'd never touched it before, but I trusted her. She said it would make the last day feel like a memory we'd never forget. She was right about that part. We took it in the early afternoon, right before heading into the main field for the headliner set. For the first hour, everything was warm. The music hit differently. The crowd felt like one living thing, and I was part of it. I understood exactly why people chased that feeling. Then I saw him. He was maybe 30 feet behind us, standing completely still while everyone around him moved. Dark jacket, heavy boots. Wrong for the weather, wrong for the crowd. He was the only person there who looked like he was working instead of having fun. I told myself, thousands of people here, you're going to see the same face twice. That's math, not a sign. But it kept happening. Near the water station, then at the edge of the crowd during the next set, then standing close to the porta potties when we walked by. Each time I spotted him, he was already looking at us. Cassidy kept brushing it off. You're spiraling. Stop scanning the crowd. I wanted to believe her. Then the substance shifted. That warm glow turned into something else, a tight, electric paranoia that crawled up from my chest into my throat. My heart felt wrong. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I told Cassidy I needed to sit down, and we found a patch of open grass away from the main stage. That's when I lost her. I turned to say something, and she was just gone, swallowed by the crowd that had drifted back around us. And before I could even process that, he was right there, not 30 feet back, right there, close enough that I could smell cigarettes. He smiled and said I looked lost. Something about the way he said it, like he was glad, turned everything inside me cold. I told him I was fine and looked for Cassidy. He offered to help me find her. I said no thank you and started walking. I didn't run. I didn't want him to know how scared I was. I found a quiet spot near a fence and called Cassidy 12 times before she picked up. She found me 20 minutes later. I was sitting on the ground with my knees to my chest, convinced that my vision was fracturing at the edges. Everything had a shimmer to it that wasn't right. We left early, got back to the Airbnb well before midnight. The other girls were still at the festival. It was just us. I crawled into bed and pulled the covers up and let exhaustion finally win. I wasn't fully asleep, more like hovering just beneath it. That half-conscious space where you're not quite dreaming, but you're not quite present either. Something pulled me back. I opened my eyes. Standing in the doorway of my bedroom was a figure. Tall, still, facing me. Even in the dark, I knew it was him. Not the shape of a stranger. Him. The same silhouette, the same weight in the shoulders. Standing 6 feet from where I was lying. I screamed. I screamed until Cassidy came running in and slapped the light on. The doorway was empty. She held me while I shook and sobbed and tried to explain what I'd seen. She kept saying it was the substance, that I was still in it, that my brain was lying to me. Part of me clung to that explanation because the alternative was unbearable. I barely slept the rest of that night. In the morning, Cassidy screamed my name. I ran out of the bedroom and found her standing in the hallway, staring at the floor. Muddy boot prints, heavy tread, starting near the front door, moving down the hall, and stopping directly in the doorway of my bedroom, then turning around and going back. Neither of us spoke for a long time. We packed in silence, checked out early, and drove back to Houston without stopping once. I've never told most people what those boot prints meant to me, because it means that what I saw in that doorway wasn't a hallucination. It means someone stood over me while I slept, and I still don't know what he was waiting for. I want to start this by saying I'm not someone who scares easily. I'm 6'2", I played college football, I work in construction. I tell you that not to brag. I tell you that so you understand how much it takes to get me to admit that I was genuinely terrified. My girlfriend Marisol invited me to visit her family in Galveston last August. Her family has a beautiful 2-story home about a block from the seawall. Her parents are warm, generous people. Her dad gave me the guest room on the lower floor, separate from the rest of the family upstairs. Private. Nice view of the water. I should have appreciated that. The first evening, Marisol and I walked the beach for photos at sunset. There were still plenty of people out, families packing up, joggers, couples. The kind of crowd that makes you feel safe without realizing you feel that way. Marisol was doing her social media thing, asking me to take about 100 shots. I'm not complaining. I would have done anything for her. But when I scrolled back through to pick the best ones, I stopped. In the background of nearly every photo, there was a man. Not wandering through the shot, positioned, sometimes behind her, sometimes at an angle facing me. In some pictures, he was partially obscured. In others, I could see his face clearly enough to know he wasn't just passing by. I looked up from my phone toward the last spot I'd seen him. He was already gone. I didn't want to alarm Marisol, so I said nothing. I told myself it was a public beach, and I was being territorial. We went back inside for dinner. Her family was loud and warm and funny, and I let it settle me down. That night, there was a bonfire gathering further down the beach, one of Marisol's friends hosting. We walked down around 9. The group was maybe 15 people, drinks going, music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. I was being social, good mood, almost forgot about the man in the photos. Then my boss called. I stepped away from the group to take the call. And standing maybe 40 yards up the beach, outside the glow of the fire, was a figure. Just standing there, facing me. I kept my voice even and told my boss I'd call him back. I looked away for 2 seconds to end the call. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I decided we weren't walking home on the beach that night. I made up an excuse to get Marisol into a car. She rolled her eyes at me the whole ride home. I helped her upstairs. She'd had a few drinks, and I sat awake in the dark on my lower level with the window facing the water. 2 nights later, I got sick. Real sick, not festival sick. Some kind of stomach thing, maybe the heat, maybe something I ate. I stayed in bed the whole next day. Marisol's family went out to dinner around 7 that evening and left me to rest. I fell asleep. I dreamed about tapping. Rapid, rhythmic tapping on glass, the kind that starts in your dream and slowly pulls you awake. I opened my eyes. The tapping stopped. I rolled over toward the window. He was standing right there. Black hoodie, face partially shadowed, his knuckles raised where he had just finished knocking. And then he waved at me. Slow, deliberate, like he'd been waiting a long time for me to see him. He turned and walked up the exterior stairs toward the front door of the house. I heard the door handle. I heard it open. I threw my back against my bedroom door and held it shut. I'm 215 pounds. Whatever he was pushing from the other side wasn't enough. I called 911. The longest 5 minutes of my life passed with me braced against that door, listening to footsteps pace back and forth just outside it. Then silence. Then the police came. The guy was gone by the time they arrived, of course. They searched the house, asked me questions, collected what they could. Then Marisol came home and went up to her room. Her scream reached me before she did. Mounted in the corner of her bedroom ceiling was a small camera, and her dresser was missing clothes. The police took the camera for investigation. We never heard what came of it. Marisol's family installed a full security system the next day. I stayed the rest of the week because leaving felt like letting him win. But every night before I slept, I checked the window, and every morning I was relieved it was empty. I still don't know if he came for me or for her. That might be the worst part. My wife and I are private people. After 2 years of working 60-hour weeks and barely seeing each other, we booked 4 nights at a remote Airbnb outside of Marfa, Texas. You know the place, one of those small desert towns with nothing but art galleries, open sky, and pure silence. The listing promised total privacy. No neighbors visible. A single-story house with a concrete pool, desert on all sides, and stars so clear you could count them. It was exactly what we needed. The house was clean, modern, sliding glass doors facing the backyard. A small storage shed off to the right side of the pool that I assumed was just for chemicals and equipment. The first night was perfect. The second day, lying by the pool, my wife thought she heard a voice somewhere distant. Neither of us could explain it. No roads nearby, no foot traffic, no houses in visible range. We laughed it off. That night, she heard tapping against the outside of the bedroom wall. I got up and looked through the glass. Saw nothing. Went back to sleep. Night 3. I was awake at midnight, scrolling my phone, when I noticed a motion light activate in the backyard. Then another, each one triggering in sequence, moving from one side of the house toward the pool. Something was walking a path around our house. My wife sat up. She told me to close the blinds. She was whispering, and I could hear the fear underneath it. I closed them. We sat in the dark and listened. I told her I was going outside to check. She grabbed my arm. She told me that was stupid, and she was right. I went anyway. I'm not proud of the reason. I just couldn't sit in the dark and wait to find out what was going to happen next. I took a kitchen knife and didn't tell her. Outside, it was silent. The desert kind of silent, total, thick, and alive in the worst way. I circled the pool. I checked the fence line. I found nothing. Then I saw the shoe prints in the sand. Not animal tracks. Human shoe prints, leading from the side of the yard straight to the storage shed. I followed them. They stopped at the shed door. I stood 3 feet from it and listened. For 10 seconds, nothing. Then a man's voice, calm as someone asking for directions, said, "Excuse me, could you open the door, please?" And then he laughed. Quiet, easy, like he found the whole thing funny. I ran. I slammed the glass door behind me, locked it, told my wife, and called 911. For the next 20 minutes, we sat together on the bed while motion lights tracked slow circles around the outside of the house. Police arrived, checked the shed. Empty, but not undisturbed. Inside, they found empty water bottles, food wrappers, evidence that someone had been living there, not for one night, for days. One officer asked if we owned a dirty baseball cap found behind the couch. We didn't. He told us the person may have been inside the house at some point. That was enough. We packed in 40 minutes, messaged the host, who never responded, and drove straight into town to find a motel. We got a partial refund after 3 days of fighting with Airbnb support. We never heard from the host. I still think about the voice. How calm it was. No urgency. No anger. Just a man sitting in the dark, comfortable, waiting, asking me politely to let him in. Like he'd done it before. Like he expected it to work.